Smith corks one into right down the line. It may go. Go crazy, folks. Go crazy. There's a drive. Way back. It might be. It could be.
Playing a high drive into left. Back towards the Craig. He's at the track. He has it. And the Cardinals are world champion for 2011.
A little bouncer slowly toward Bryant. He will glove it, go to Rizzo. It's in time, and the Chicago Cubs win the World Series.
This is the Team of Rivals podcast. No insiders, no anonymous sources, just passionate analysis from the bleacher seats. Here are your hosts, Ron Nuttall and Peter Geddes.
All right, everyone, welcome back to the show. Quite an accomplishment tonight on many, many levels. I'm celebrating me tonight, and this could be one of the best shows ever because I figured out how to use a bunch of electronics, social media, video, sound. I've done it all tonight, but I'm not alone.
You're on fire.
I'm on fire. This is going to be the best hour over the whole last year that we've done on this show, because I feel that confident now that I was able to tweet one. And what else did I do, Elliott? Help me out.
You shared on Facebook?
I think we can kill the sound. I might be a little slow on the dials, though. Yes, I got the information out on Facebook. This YouTube Live thing is working, and I tell you what, the thorough people document their processes they use so you can be consistent every time. I do nothing of the sort, and so I had to kind of figure this thing out. We weren't going to do any more YouTube Lives until we got into December, but what the hell, right? Pete's off the grid right now, so there's going to be another voice in the co-pilot's chair again tonight. Back with us is Elliott Dewey.
Greetings, everyone.
Yeah, and we're going to talk, and we're going to have some other guests. Hopefully they can get their act together and join us partway through the show. But we have a couple of special guests coming on a little bit later. One of them is an Astros fan. I served with him in the Marines for several years. Good friend. Haven't spoken in a long time, so it'll be a good conversation. And somewhere in this, I'll also plug in a snippet of our recording the other night where we had Fred Hornberg on with us briefly. But that was a technical disaster Tuesday night. So I was so off my game on Tuesday night. I went into tonight with a very low confidence level. But what do you know? Everything seems to be working right now. And recording. Amazing. One man. So
there we go.
Yeah. So the World Series wrapped up last night. And the series in a whole was pretty darn good. And
yeah, you know what?
Gosh, we got to talk about last night. It finished with sort of
it is kind of
thud,
anticlimactic.
Right?
I mean,
yeah, it was.
The Astros, I wouldn't say were in command right away, but Dodgers made a few costly errors, cost them a couple runs, and it's almost like they couldn't get out of that and come back and make it a ball game. And then you had the homer by Springer again, and
yeah,
that was it.
Yeah.
It was the first two innings, and then after that you had the one run by the Dodgers, and just kind of meh.
Yeah, exactly right. Couldn't have said any better. But when we had talked, a couple nights ago prior to this, I was so pumped on Game 5 because I just thought, man, this is these are the two best teams in the league, and we've talked about the Astros. The Astros in the American League, although Cleveland finished with a better overall record, I think from beginning of season to the end of the season, the Astros were a better team. Clearly, they were better balanced. They may not have a better bullpen, but I think from beginning to end, I was glad to see them make it in there, and I was glad to see guys like Verlander and Carlos Beltran get their shot once again.
Yeah.
And then the Dodgers being clearly the best team in the National League. So it was great to see the two best facing off. And with the exception, I think, really of Game 7, boy, it was competitive. And I have a new perspective, I think, on the AL and NL West because we just don't see it that often, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the couple times that both the Cubs and the Cardinals see the Dodgers a year, and then depending on what year it is, we don't always get to see those AL teams. So, I mean, yes, these aren't the Astros that the Cubs and the Cardinals had been beating up on the last, 15 years before this. So,
right. And we've had a lot of exposure over the years, right? And then what year was it they switched over to the American League? Was it 2013 or was it before that?
I want to say
I don't remember.
2012.
2012, okay. Yeah, it's still hard to get used to, right? Thinking about them from time to time, you almost forget, like in the course of a year, like, oh yeah, it's right, Astros in the American League. I keep forgetting, right? It just feels like a National League team because we've seen that stadium so many times when our teams played them.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I mean, what would we face them 18, 19 times a year?
Yeah, something like that. 17, 18 times a year, something like that.
Anyway, back to the series. So, I don't know what you felt that the turning point was in the series, but you look back on the entire thing, my knee-jerk reaction, I would have said Game 5, Astros pulling that out, but I don't think it was. I think it was Game 2, that 2-run home run off Kenley Jansen.
That was Game 2 was the other game that Darvish started, wasn't it?
It was, right.
So. Yeah, and maybe because he only pitched 1 2/3 inning that game too, wasn't it?
No, I thought Darvish went a little bit longer than that. I don't know. We'll fact check it. Keep going. I'll take a look.
Or maybe 3. So maybe the Astros got in Darvish's head, and he was just probably thinking, God, I gotta go 5 innings at least, and was just overthinking it because he did not look like the Darvish that you see during the regular season. He
definitely didn't in Game 7 for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it was almost kind of like he was mortal, like Clayton Kershaw had been the last few years when he got into the playoffs.
You know what? It was Rich Hill that pitched in Game 2.
Oh, was it Rich Hill?
It was.
Okay.
Game 1 was obviously, I think it was Verlander. Wow. It was Kershaw that did pitch Game 1, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Because I think it was because Darvish pitched the last game against Chicago.
Right. Yeah, he did.
So no, it was Rich Hill.
He looked great in that last game too. So I mean,
he did.
I think he pitched 6 innings in that last game. That was just a total wreck. So, I mean, he was pitching with a lead, so he could pitch free.
Yeah, so Jansen had the blown save at Game 2, and if I'm looking back on that, I'm going, wow, that was. I think when it's all said and done, when you look at it, it was Gonzalez for the Astros. 9th inning, it was a solo shot. For some reason, I was thinking it was a 2-run home run. Gosh, what was that game like a week ago? But it feels like it was so much longer. It was the 9th inning off Jansen. And all of a sudden, Kenley Jansen looked mortal.
Yeah.
And I hadn't seen a lot of that guy. I hadn't seen a lot of that guy until we got into the playoffs this year because I didn't watch. I caught maybe just a couple games against Chicago last year in the NLCS. And living out in the East Coast.
Every time he was out there, he shut it down, no matter what was going on. So
and I hadn't seen much of him. So I was actually pretty impressed. But, yeah, I think if you look at back over this whole series, I really believe that spot right there, the Astros stole one in L.A. If they would have been down, if they wouldn't have, they'd be down 0-2 going back to Houston. And I think the series would have shaped up a lot different.
Right. No,
it would have affected a lot of decisions.
I agree.
Boy, but that Game 5 was that was amazing. That Astros lineup, you just knew when guys like Altuve were coming up to bat, you just knew they were going to tie it. Even down 3 runs, you just knew they were going to tie it.
Yeah.
And you knew it was going to keep going.
I mean the 4 runs in the bottom of the 7th, and you're like, okay, they got this. And then all of a sudden you go to the top of the 9th and the Dodgers score 3, and you're like, oh great, here we go. Yeah,
I know. Well, that was a shocker. Yeah, that's right, because the Dodgers came back and played at 3 in the 9th inning. It took it in extra innings, but you still had that feeling like Houston was going to end up coming out on top of that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just the way they were coming back. But then, and then you go, game 6 was pretty competitive.
Yeah.
It ended up 3-1.
Yeah, it was competitive for most of the game. And then you get down to the final innings with the Dodgers scoring a couple of runs to take that game. So it was really exciting. I just wish Game 7 would have just been a little bit closer, with a little bit more of the dramatics. I mean, Game 5 had the dramatics, but I was just hoping for something a little bit more climactic in that Game 7. But
and so think about Game 5, looking at who the starters were going into Game 5. If I were to tell you there were going to be 28 runs or 25 runs, 28 hits, with a game that started Clayton Kershaw and Dallas Keuchel, would you believe me?
Right, absolutely not.
I mean, is that not insane or what?
No, I mean, you look at that and you think, God, who did they pitch? Did they bring in their 5 starters for this game?
Well, let me go down the list here. So it looks like LA went through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pitchers, and it looks like Houston went through 7 as well. So Kershaw 6 earned runs.
Yeah,
and
absolutely amazing.
Keuchel had 4 earned runs. Well, no, sorry, 3 earned runs, give up 4. But wow, Kershaw's still going to carry that thing around where he's just not a big game pitcher. Unfortunately, that's going to continue.
Yeah,
for him.
You know what though? He came in Game 7, and he pitched those.
He pitched 4 innings, right?
4 innings.
I think it was 4.
And he looked great. So
well, and then Roberts obviously would hear the criticism at that point. Why didn't you just start him if you were going to bring him in, for long relief? But
right.
I mean, gosh, he had just thrown. That's what, 2 full days rest, really.
Right, and then use Darvish after that.
Right. Well, here's the thing, right? Darvish is going to take his fair share of criticism for what happened in Game 7, but I'll look at the same thing I've been mad at my Cardinals all season about. Whenever a writer or anybody reports on, the pitching blew it or the bullpen blew it. Well,
right.
I for some reason I have a hard time reading that stuff when you look at the box score and the offense gave you 1 run to work on.
That's true too.
Ultimately,
and
right?
You can't really blame it on the pitcher, but
well, he did pitch terrible. I mean,
say those errors don't happen in the first inning and he comes out clean. Maybe he pitches a little bit differently the next inning, and he gets out. He gets out of that second inning and he pitches maybe a couple more. But I mean, you never know. I mean, that was the big things with when the Cubs played the Dodgers is, everybody was like, lack of offense. Where's the offense at? And it's like, well, yeah, there's lack of offense, but you're also going up against 3 of the top pitchers in the National League that had pretty much dominated all season: Kershaw, Darvish, and Rich Hill.
Yeah.
So, and then that rookie, the rookie Dodgers pitcher that won 15 or 16 games this year.
Yeah, I can't remember. I'm thinking the name's not. I just closed my pad down too here.
Oh, that's all right.
Yeah, the name's right there. It's right there. But no, I'm looking at the wrong team, and I'm looking at the wrong game. Hang on.
Did he pitch? I can't remember if he pitched in the series.
I'm not. No, I don't. Yeah, I don't know. So who they had? He had Darvish, Morrow, Kershaw, Jansen, Wood.
Maybe it was Wood. Is it Wood? Is he the
Wood?
He's the rookie.
I think maybe it is. Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
But here's the thing too. Also in Game 7, just think about it, right? A lot of these games for LA and Houston, I think what we saw. I take Houston for example. Their manager AJ Hinch, right? What I think we saw, I don't know for sure, right? Because we're not in their head, but
right.
I think what you saw here was a steady balance of, the analytics that a lot of these organizations use to go into their game strategy.
Right.
But I guarantee you, no analytics said pitch Charlie Morton to finish off 4 innings.
No.
Right. Probably wouldn't have said that. So I think what you saw was a good balance of, hey, we're in the moment. He's looking good and he's getting the job done. So statistics can tell me to do something, but what I'm seeing with my eyes right here, he's got it going. He's got it going right now. I'm going to stay with the hot hand.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit of baseball, eyes on and gut feel, and I'm sure they went into the game with this plan based on analytics as well. So I think you saw a good balance of it.
Yeah, I do too. Man, he looked great for that remainder of that game. I mean, I couldn't believe he went the whole 4 innings. I mean,
no, but again, I think what you saw was a good marriage of the two. And most guys, right? I mean, they're my age or a little older. So many guys I know and hear are just so against this analytics. They're like the old school, the scouting, the eyes on, gut feel.
Right.
And then there's other guys that, they are all about these, statistics and analytics. Rarely do you find people kind of in between. But I think what you saw out of the Astros this series was it can work together.
Right. It's usually that's where kind of that marriage work is somewhere in the middle between the two.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you look at teams that rely mostly on analytics or mostly on the CNI, they usually kind of are towards the bottom of the bell curve, and you find those teams who use a little bit of both kind of, right there in the middle, a little bit better. So,
yeah. Well, I think what you saw from it, though, is like that combination can work if used, if there's a good balance. It just has to be a good balance. And I think we saw that come from Houston. And I think a lot of it, for the most part, came with LA. It just felt like LA was a little bit more, they had an automatic plan, going in. You're only going to pitch so many innings. Yeah. Rich Hill looked great in game 2, and they ended up pulling him after I want to say like 5 innings. I mean, He only had 60 pitches.
They did.
Most people tell you that's crazy, but, analytics probably said, well, he can't face a lineup for the 3rd time through because,
right. And I think you saw that a lot of that last year in the National League Series. You saw a lot of those pitchers getting pulled around that fifth, early 6th inning once they were getting that 3rd time through the order. So I don't know why you wouldn't trust your pitchers like you do during the regular seasons when they were getting wins all the time. I know the playoffs are a different total beast, but they must see something that we don't.
Obviously, a lot of things I don't. But this was, when it's all said and done, though, this World Series was good. I think it was good for baseball. It was good to see 2 new teams in it this year. And this is great. You think about it, right? You've had the Royals, you've had the Cubs. Yes, I said it. You had the Cubs win, and you've had the Astros win, right? I think it's good to see. It's good to see that you got you got 3 teams. They all come from kind of a different they all have a different story behind how they made it there, but it's 3 different teams, so I think it's a good thing.
What I also think it does too is because you've had all these different teams make it to so you've had 4 different teams make it to the World Series in the last 2 years, so you've got 4 different fan bases that are like, I don't see why my team can't do it again next year. Or certainly the Indians are going to be a great team again next year. The Cubs are certainly going to be good again next year. The Dodgers and the Astros are all going to be good again next year. So you get those fan bases who are just coming off these World Series appearances and wins, and they're hungry for baseball. So you're going to have a much bigger audience paying attention to baseball. And with these exciting games, you're going to get more fans in. It's almost kind of like what you've seen in the last couple of years with hockey. I don't know how much hockey you watch, but I felt like
I used to watch so much
gotten
more.
A lot of more.
Yeah, I used to watch
more national recognition. So.
Yeah, well, no, I used to be into hockey big time. When I lived near the Peoria area, I loved watching their minor. There was a Blues minor league team for years. It was Peoria Rivermen. It was a lot of fun. The old IHL league was great. But, then I followed the Blues a lot, obviously, too. But when I left for the military, it was harder to follow. If you remember, there was a strike season in there, too. And
I remember.
So they were not playing for a while. I have not picked it up to the same level since, and I'm very much, I'm probably going to end up being like a bandwagon fan because they make a deep playoff run, I'll be watching them. But no, I don't. I chose baseball a long time ago, and that's the one I follow the most. And the Bears are painful.
Man, it's looked a little bit better the last couple of weeks.
I went so many episodes without even mentioning them, and I did it again. It has been painful. There's a Bear fan that lives across the street.
Oh,
didn't
wow.
know, but he saw me with the Bear shirt on. He's like, hey, we got the conversation. But yeah, he's from the Chicago area. So, I tell you what, I've seen 4x the amount of Cubs shirts out here than I ever have Bear shirts. So, but here's the combination of fan I don't understand. A lot of people are confused by me. So, how are you a St. Louis Cardinal fan and a Chicago Bears? Why aren't you a St. Louis Rams? Well, when I grew up, really didn't have a football team. The Rams weren't there.
Yeah, the Rams weren't there. They didn't get there till the 90s, correct?
Yeah, it was back half of the 90s. I don't remember the exact year, but yeah, I mean, the St. Louis Cardinals had a football team, I think, right? I mean, I know they did, but I say I think jokingly because I don't know who the hell followed them.
Yeah.
But then they of course took off for Arizona. But so people get a little confused, like, why the hell, why aren't you a Rams fan? Well, that's my explanation. The combination of fan, I know we're shifting gears to kind of our our comfort zone here, talking about Cubs Cardinals baseball, which we're gonna do. The combination of fan that confuses the hell out of me are Chicago Cub, Green Bay Packers. Maybe you can explain, because you've lived in both areas now, and explain that combination. How does that work?
I missed that. The Green Bay Packers, what? Chicago
Cub, Green Bay Packers fan. Like their football team's the Packers, their baseball team's the Cubs. That's what I don't understand. It's my mind, I think, in anybody's mind that's not from the Chicago area thinks if you're Chicago, you're all Chicago.
Right. I don't understand that. My uncle is one of those Green Bay Packers fans, Cubs fans, and I don't understand how it happened. I think because when he was growing up, his family lived up north in Wisconsin, so they were obviously Green Bay Packers fans, but they weren't big into baseball. And until he moved away when he was a little older, living in Illinois, he over time became a Cubs fan. That's kind of how I think that happened, but I don't understand how anybody can be a Green Bay Packer fan and a Cubs fan by choice, especially if you live in Illinois or grow up in Illinois.
Right.
Maybe they do it just to despise their parents who are probably Bears fans, and they say, well, you know what, I'm just going to do it to make you angry, and then eventually become a fan.
Well, here's the thing. So I say all that, but my son is not that he's not that exact combination, but my son is a Packers football fan, but a St. Louis Cardinal fan. So that's a strange combination too. But his grandfather's side of the family are all Packer fans, so I get it.
Okay. Yeah, I can get that. You know what? The Packers are on nationally more than the Bears are, especially recently in the last few years, with how big Aaron Rodgers is as a national brand for State Farm and stuff like that. But plus they're constantly on Fox and with Joe Buck.
You don't like Joe Buck, huh?
No, I don't mind him. I think he's actually one of the better play-by-play announcers.
Playboy? He's excellent Playboy.
He's a Playboy.
Hey, you know what? Who I was impressed with this year, though, is John Smoltz.
Yeah, he did.
He's fantastic.
Nice job this year.
Yeah.
I was always a fan of John Smoltz, even when he was with the Atlanta Braves. I mean, when it was
finished with the Cardinals,
and Maddox and Glavine. Those guys were unstoppable back in the 90s.
Yeah, and for a very long period of time, either it wasn't it wasn't like a Mets version where you have these studs, but they're like never healthy at the same time, or it's looking like the beginning of the end for that group as a whole. Right?
I tell you what, I almost really stopped being a Cubs fan when they traded Greg Maddox away. When the Cubs traded Greg,
free agent.
He was going to stay, but the Tribune Company didn't offer him a contract, and I just thought it was one of the the dumbest things.
It is dumb
in the world.
Yeah, the Tribune Company is just all around dumb. They don't know how to run businesses outside of newspapers. They're probably not doing that well with that business these days. They're dumb baseball people, dumb at writing, dumb at making people happy. They're dumb.
Yes. No, I totally agree. I mean, there was so many free agents that were let go and never re-signed, and people who were signed to these huge, stupid contracts that I had never understood. It just
here's the thing, right?
Drove me nuts.
How do you own a property like the Chicago Cubs? How do you own that property? And a few short years, they weren't really short years, but I mean, literally, what was it? When did the Ricketts family buy it? In 11, 10?
2010.
2010. How does, in 6 years, an ownership group come in and completely turn everything around?
Because they cared about baseball and
you couldn't do it. That's what I'm saying. They're dumb. They have a property there that's, geez, you're telling me that couldn't have been lucrative for that crappy paper? And they couldn't get that right? It's, you know what? I mean, I have my criticism over Anheuser-Busch, too, because they sold off the Cardinals, and thank God they did that, because it wasn't going anywhere under August the 3rd.
Right.
You know, or I think I've got that name right. I think it was August the 3rd. Not Augie, but his son. I'm sorry. Geez, I'm gonna get these names wrong. Gussie Busch. He ran that team through the 80s and when they had a really good run. And when he didn't, you know, but you know what? Whatever. I'm glad they sold it to the DeWitts because they've had a really good run under the DeWitts. But gosh, I mean, how do these come? You're right. They just don't care.
Right. They did. They probably used the revenue to pump back into the Tribune Company to use that to sell more papers.
Yep. Yay. More papers. Yeah. So, all right. So the Cardinals had some free agents file today or declare their free agency. There's Lance Lynn. Neither were a surprise. And there's one more. I'm missing it.
No.
I'm missing it. O's not a surprise, and he's not coming back. Lynn, I really would have liked to see the Cardinals at least offer up a qualifying offer for him. And maybe they have done that, or maybe they will do that. I don't know, but we'll see.
Okay.
There's one more name.
Yeah, I didn't see that. I was kind of out of the office today, traveling, so I really didn't get to see much of what has happened.
I don't think much activity has happened. I'm looking through.
The only thing that I saw was that the Angels signed B.J. Upton to a 6-year, $125 million contract.
Wow.
Yeah, I think that's the
Justin
only
Upton, not B.J.
Upton.
Guys, gonna say, did B.J. really get a contract? You got to be kidding me.
Justin Upton, yes.
Wow. Okay, so it was Zach Duke, Juan Nicasio, and Lance Lynn all declared free agency for the Cardinals. I think it'll be interesting, but I think they will try to retain Juan Nicasio. He did really well when he came over, but man, another strange trade. And Pete and I talked about it on the show that you rarely see these acquisitions in September, like after the August 31st deadline. That's when they got him.
Yeah.
And I think they just did it to stop the bleeding at the end of the year. That bullpen was gushing blood. They had to put a Band-Aid over it, a tourniquet of some sorts, and that's what he was. But right now he's a free agent. And I think they're definitely interested to bring him back because they need all the bullpen help they can scrape together in this offseason. Lance Lynn, I had mixed feelings about that one because, you know, a year off of Tommy John surgery, I think he did pretty damn good. One of their more reliable guys.
Yeah, he had a nice year this year.
Yeah, he did. And, you know, some guys don't. The year, you know, he was out the entire 2016 run. He was out the entire year, and some guys don't come back as quick, but he did, and he pitched solid. I guess the mixed feelings are, how much is it going to take to retain him for how many years? Is he going to start experiencing a decline? I mean, there's probably some good reasons to not, but what's left in your starting staff? What do you're right now? You're betting on a lot. You're betting that Luke Weaver's ready to stay. You're betting that Jack Flaherty is going to make an impact. A little bit of betting there that Alex Reyes is going to. He too was out all last year. With Tommy John recovery, is he going to be ready? You're betting on a lot there. What the hell's happened to Adam Wainwright? Is he going to regain any form? Michael Wacha has always been a health question, and
Wainwright's through all of next season, correct? And then his contract is up.
I believe so. So it will retain. Keeping a guy like Lynn, I think you can rely on him for 200 innings next year, and solid performance. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about them just letting him walk. So they must have something else in mind. But
yeah,
I hope this thought isn't true, and that is, are they doing the same kind of thing, putting faith in a lot of guys that are unproven, like they have done with Stephen Piscotty, what they've done with Randall Grichuk, because their assumptions have been wrong. It almost feels like they're crossing their fingers year over year, hoping that somebody's got to rise out of this mix and be a core, establish themselves as a pillar of the team. And none of those young guys, it's not happened yet.
No, I don't feel like nobody's stepped up and established themselves as, hey, Yadier's got 2 years left on his contract. Obviously he's going to be still that face of the franchise until he leaves, until he retires. But I got to imagine that he's going to start taking that bench coach every 2 or 3 day a week player, just because he is getting old, and I know he's had some concussion issues, especially at the end of the year. So somebody's got to step up and either start taking his spot, or Yadier's got to get to one of these young guys and say, hey, man, you're the future. We need you to be more vocal and become this for the Cardinals. So
yeah, he's got 2 years left, right? And then they've got that highly touted, highly ranked prospect in Carson Kelly, who didn't get a whole lot of playing time last year. It's hard to get Yadi to take the bench. I agree with you, though. Age is not working in his favor. He's on the wrong side of 30. He's a catcher. Is there some first base, spot starts for him to try to rest those legs up a little bit? It's just, they're going to have to deal with that sooner than later.
Yeah, and I think the one thing that hasn't changed, I think, for Yadier is his bat. His bat has always been solid. So maybe there is a transition to first base next year when he's taking his days off from behind the plate, and then you're getting Kelly back there, because from what I saw of him, he looks good. He's looks like a really good, nice, solid catcher. So
yeah, well, they've this I didn't expect we'd see a whole lot of activity within this first week, even the first few days. We'll see a lot of filings, and they'll start penciling in meetings with certain players, certain teams as we work our way. I don't think we'll see I don't know. I say that, and I'll probably be wrong, but I don't think we'll see a lot of significant movement until we get to that the winter meetings.
Well, winter meetings are in 6 weeks. Man, I think you start seeing stuff in a week. I feel like last year there was about a 1 week lull after the series ended. You had all your free agents file, and then I felt like trades started happening right away. So
I have to go back and look. It feels like the winter meetings are going to be so close. They're coming up so quickly. It's what it feels like. Maybe it's just my anxiousness to get there, because I've now been without my own baseball for almost a month.
Right. So let me ask you a question. So Yu Darvish is supposed to be the number one pitching free agent, or number one free agent available this offseason. Do you think his performances in the World Series hurt the kind of contract that he was thinking that he would be getting this next year?
It could, but you know what? When you say Darvish is the number one pitcher available on a free agent market, it just tells me it's a weak market.
Yeah.
I don't think he's ever lived up to the expectations.
Weak market for starting pitchers, yeah. So, I think he'll still get.
He's still going to get a good contract. He's going to get a good contract from somebody, no doubt. And who that is, I think you told me before we went on. Seattle might be emerging as a front runner, which wouldn't surprise me. They've had they've had a lot of success with players from Japan. I mean, Ichiro being one of them, but they've had several other guys there. It's a good spot for them being on the far West Coast like that.
Right.
It's probably an ideal situation if you're going to play baseball in the U.S. That's probably the place you'd want to go. I mean, it's the closest place to home. But Seattle doesn't surprise me. Every once in a while they jump into things like that. Like they'll go out and get a Robinson Cano. But nothing they've ever done there has really pushed them over the top, has it? Right?
No. I mean,
not that I recall.
Last year they were a pretty decent team, and they were kind of in the mix towards the end of the year. But then they really didn't go over that hump. They were just kind of riding right on the edge of that wild card spot. A couple games behind most of the year, I felt like. But yeah, there was always something that they were missing where they really couldn't put it all together to get into the playoffs at the end of the year. So
right.
Man, just thinking, the Yankees are going to be another good team next year. I mean, they got a lot of young guys, and they're gonna be a powerhouse. Boston's going to be right there again next year. I think Baltimore is another good one out there that on the East Coast. They kind of had a down year this year, I think.
Yeah, you didn't hear much noise coming out of Baltimore at all.
No, no.
It didn't feel like they were. I felt like they were out of it earlier this year than even last year. I could be wrong, but it just felt like they were out of it quicker.
Yeah.
Well, some of the teams that you really, imagine being a Royals fan right now.
Oh my God, you got to be upset,
right? I mean, well, here's the thing: like they didn't deal away any of those big guys that are becoming free agents now because they thought they were going to be in it. And when they weren't in it, it was by the time they figured out they weren't in it anymore, it was too late.
Right.
So, but you got Hosmer as a free agent. Is it Moustakas and Lorenzo Cain? Is it those three? I believe that are eligible now.
I think so.
Still, man, that's like imagine almost the whole core of your team getting ready to walk. Oh, and you're getting nothing in return. You'll get your draft pick, right? But
if you could have dealt them, then you would have gotten something back. But because you didn't, now these guys just walking,
and they're gonna.
You get your commissary, draft pick. That's it.
Yeah. So I mean, I think this is more fan talk or more look at people that analyze and write about the industry are looking at what's available and certain needs and Hosmer's name's come up as he should be a target for the Cardinals and it would be a good signing for them. I mean, that's the middle of the order bat that they've sorely needed over the last couple of years that they haven't had, and he would change the structure of that everyday lineup you're throwing out there for sure. I mean, it would make a deep impact, and it would stretch that lineup out. So
you guys need a closer.
Yeah,
I think that maybe Greg Holland or something like that. God, I would hate it, but yeah, I mean Wade Davis is going to be out there. I don't think the Cubs are going to be able to re-sign him.
Yeah, I don't know. The Cardinals are really, if they're talking about a Wade Davis and a potential bat, even like a Hosmer. I don't know how willing they are to open up that wallet.
I know it's been hard pressed for them to do that.
Yeah, well, and they're starting to get a log jam in the outfield too with all the young prospects they have. That a lot of them are on the cusp or they're already ready. There's just not a spot for them, so they've got to move. They got to make some. When I say significant, I mean the amount of players, not as significant, but they're gonna have to move some outfielders on too in a few deals. The question is, does anybody want those outfielders, right? Because you can have all the guys in the world to
Right.
trade, but does anybody need them or want them? And that'll be what the Cardinals front office needs to figure out real quick. I'd really hate to see them run the same outfield out there next year.
Yeah. I would say that they want to give the most innings to the guys that are going to be the most impact, and platooning all those guys, I think, probably throws them off their game a little bit. It's almost the same story in Chicago with all these bench guys and all these MLB ready guys that I would like to see get a little bit more playing time. I mean, you look at the outfield. I don't think Zobrist is your everyday second baseman next year. So he's going to be a platoon guy between left field and second base. I think Javi should be the everyday second baseman. But then you've got like Ian Happ, you've got Albert Moore Jr., you've got Kyle Schwarber, and then you put Tommy La Stella and Zobrist in there. And then Hayward. I mean, what are you looking at? Six, 7 outfielders.
Yeah.
All those guys.
And you're not moving Hayward.
Everyday players. No, Hayward's going to stay there.
Yeah.
There's one more year until an opt out. I don't think there's going to be an opt out after next year unless he has a total turnaround season where he's back up to batting 290 and hitting 20 plus home runs and knocking in 90 plus RBIs.
Yeah, what people are going to look at that and go, well, that's only 1 year. Show me over 2 or 3, and then we'll believe. So he would have to have some special season next year if he's going to be able to opt out and look for something else to do. But I don't see that happening.
I don't see it happening.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I know he gets a lot of crap from a lot of fans about his hitting. Hit him 7th, hit him 8th.
I'm sure $20 million softens the harsh words.
It is,
right?
But man, that glove is so good.
Yeah,
I mean,
he and the arm.
There's so many saves out there. He makes so many catches that you see a lot of players pull up on. That he'll slide and make a grab, or he'll gun somebody out at home, or to have a put out at second base. It's hard to swallow because the offense really isn't there, but that defense is just so good.
Yeah, but it's a expensive, 9th inning defensive replacement.
It is,
and that's something you can't rationalize in your head. Like that amount of money going to a player, everything tells you got to have
rely on that guy.
Right,
yeah,
right. So it's I was relieved. I mean, I was 2 things when the Cubs picked him up. I was like, damn it, why'd you have to go there? But at the same time, I'm like, good. I'm glad they offered more, which is, geez, really? They offered more, and he decided, Chicago's the place he wanted to be. And again, there's nothing wrong with that decision. It's his decision to make. But that would be a tough thing to see because you have to feel like you got to run him out there.
Right.
So, but I didn't think I didn't think he was going to be. I didn't think his hitting was going to be this bad over the last 2 years, though. Even when he left, I thought he would be an adequate enough hitter. It's just how does he perform in situations? I mean, I didn't think he would be this bad. I'm not saying he's terrible, but clearly you want to see more from him.
Right. In his last 4 years before that, he was a 290 hitter. I mean, there was nothing in his history out of the last 5 or 6 years that said his offense was gonna drop off that much. That's why he got signed to that contract. So
right.
Who knows what the factors are? I mean, I don't think it was him being hurt. So we'll see. I mean, I know he after last season, the 2015 season, as soon as the season ended, he moved down to Arizona to get working on his swing,
work on it
with the hitting coach. new hitting coach this year. Their new
is there a new
coaches
hitting
have
coach? Chili Davis, right?
Yeah, Chili Davis. New bench coach. Dave Martinez is now the Nationals bench coach.
He's their manager, right? Did he get hired as manager?
Yeah, he's their manager.
Yeah, so he's got the whole team.
Yep. He got. I think it was actually.
He's gonna have to fill Dusty's shoes.
Yeah, I think it was Wade Boggs who actually tweeted out congratulations to Dave Martinez in getting the Nationals coaching position before the Nationals even officially announced it. So, which I thought was kind of funny. So, yeah, I mean, the Cubs have already pretty much transitioned almost the entire bench or supportive coaching staff. So, so Chris Bosio is gone. He was let go. John Maley, and then the third base coach was let go. So, and then Madden brought in the guys a lot of guys that he's worked with through the years that have either been in Tampa Bay or I think out in LA. So now looking at 2018, you're like, okay, Madden, you own this now. Now this is everything's kind of on you now when it comes to the hitting coaches and your fielding and stuff like that. He's owning it all now.
Yeah. Well, I think I don't know how it's so the Cardinals did a fair amount of changes in the coaching staff, and it actually started middle of last year, right? They got rid of they moved on from their third base coach, and then they brought in another guy who's now their bench coach because their bench coach Jay Bell had left and went to San Francisco. I think he said that was moved to be closer to home. But they've went through a significant amount of coaching staff changes. I don't know how many of those were advocated by Mike Matheny, or how many were just kind of
right.
We're going to talk about it, and you're going to agree to it, and we're going to make some changes. Kendo's coming back. He's going to be third base coach again, and we're bringing a guy from our past who's well known, well liked, well respected. He's been an instructor for years. I mean, part time, but we're bringing a big Cardinal name back in McGee. Which I think those were two great moves. Pete and I talked about it just a couple of weeks ago about, hey, the only news right now for our teams is really coaching changes. And both of our teams have a different looking bench. When I say bench, I mean the coaches that are going to be on the bench. It's going to have a different look to it. And the Cardinals also, I think on that show, they hadn't officially announced it yet, but, they brought in Mike Maddox, a well-known, highly regarded coach.
I think the Cubs were actually looking at him for a pitching coach too. I was hoping that they would get Mike Maddox, but I know Madden brought in somebody else, Jim Hickey, who he worked with down in Tampa Bay with. Yeah, so I also thought that the Cardinals were also looking at.
They talked to him. They talked to him first
too.
Yeah, he actually, I believe that was one of his first conversations was with the Cardinals. But I mean, given the history of him and Joe Madden and the the success the Cubs have had over the last 2.5 years. I mean, I thought the Cubs had the inside lane on that one anyway. As soon as Bosio was let go, you could see that one coming.
Now, Mike Maddox was with Milwaukee
last
year, correct?
No, he was actually the Nationals.
So was
he was with the Nationals last year, but he had been with Milwaukee.
Okay,
right?
That's right. Okay, that's right. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now he was leaving Nationals. Did the Nationals fire him, or was he leaving because Dusty was gone?
I don't know if the Nationals let him go. I mean, they could have let the whole coaching staff go. If they're bringing somebody new in, perhaps they want that new guy to bring in whoever he needs to bring in. But you think a first-time manager, though, like Dave Martinez would appreciate having a guy like Mike Maddox on your bench, and handling your pitching staff. You'd think wow, that'd be a nice benefit to have, right?
Yeah.
So I don't.
The years that Mike Maddox was with Texas, I mean, they had a great pitching staff down there. So,
yeah, I'm just looking real quick right now to see.
Yu Darvish was down there with Mike Maddox, and that's when you had some of his
better
imagine? Seasons.
Can you imagine? Cardinals won't do that. They will not. I
think so.
Like Mike Leake has scarred them. from pitching acquisitions via money. I think that was too painful, and I just can't see them doing that again. They've been known to trade for those big arms from time to time, or under the Dave Duncan, La Russa era, they were fantastic at resurrecting guys like Darryl Kyle was a reclamation project, but he had a lot of success with Houston, but went to Colorado, and the Colorado bug bit him, and he came back to he came to St. Louis and ended up being a staff ace, for 2+ seasons, and obviously he was lost at a very young age of just a freak event. I actually went to that game that they canceled in Chicago when Darryl Kyle passed away.
Oh wow!
No, we went on a bus trip. And it's exciting. You're gonna watch the Cubs Cardinals play on a Saturday, and we pull up to Wrigley Field, and it said game canceled, but there was not a cloud in the sky, and nobody knew what happened. Remember, this is the day before you got information instantly via a cell phone or anything. I might have had a flip phone,
right?
And so really didn't learn what happened until the bus got all the way back to Bloomington.
Holy cow!
So, a bummer, right?
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, there's a couple of years
on two
there.
fronts. That was
man.
They lost another pitcher too. I think it was 2008. Josh Hancock, I think was his name. Car accident.
That's right.
They've had their share. And then Oscar Tavares in 2014.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Yeah, that's a couple of just freak accidents.
And then, Pete and I have talked about this, and it's just a hard thing to talk about. But the reality of it is that his Oscar Tavares' passing is sent ripples that are still there today, because he was a big future piece of. He was a huge piece of their future going forward.
He'd be around 26 right now, going into his prime.
Yeah, and permanent right fielder. There's that 3 or 4 hitter that they sorely lack and need. That was the guy that would have been there.
Right.
We don't know how it ultimately would end up, but that was the plan. And Hayward would not have been in a Cardinal uniform if that had not happened, because what immediately they did, they went out and traded for they traded a good young pitcher at the time, and Shelby Miller and another prospect to get Hayward over from Atlanta, in his walk year.
Right.
So it's had a lasting effect on what they've
maybe
had to
instead
do.
of going after another fielder, you go after another batter. You get an additional batter in there that's hitting either behind or in front of,
giving him some kind of protection.
Right.
But so it's had a lasting effect, unfortunately. But anyway, so Cubs, what do you think? We asked this question the other night. Of course, that is probably lost in a hazy field. That recording from Tuesday, I don't know how much of that I'll be able to recover, but we're going to try to do something. So I'll ask some of the questions again. What do you think the Cubs are going to do first, player wise? What do you think is the first need, or what do you think is their biggest need? What are they going to have to address?
Starting pitching is going to be their first biggest need, because Jake Arrieta is going to sign a big contract with somebody. I don't know who that is. Talks right now I hear is possibly the Brewers, which I hate. But they're gonna need a starting pitcher.
We've speculated it'll be the Nationals forever, simply because he's a Boris client, and it probably won't happen. They've got a lot of money on the books right now, anyway.
The Nationals do, yeah. And then how badly are they going to want to keep Bryce Harper, and how much money are they going to try and throw at him if they can, if Bryce wants to stay? Who knows what he's going to do? But
I think it comes down to whether he wants to stay there or not, because I don't think money is going to get in their way.
And I don't think he wants to. I think he wants to go somewhere else. I think he wants to go to a bigger market team. I think he's either going to go to New York, Chicago, or LA. I think those are one of the 3 teams that he will go to. And I just get giddy thinking of the prospects of him and Chris Bryant
you didn't
hitting right next to each other.
You did kind of look giddy there. That's not a good look for you.
It's their wives are friends. Chris and Bryce played together out in Vegas for years.
Jeez, here we go.
So I gotta think that the Cubs have the upper hand here and could get.
How come you're not throwing Seattle in there? Because they're always in on these big ones, right? I mean, whether they get them or not.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe they throw $500 million at them or something.
Well, that's probably what it would take. But what if it ended up being like, how shocked would everybody be? We should have an over under. What about Pittsburgh?
I know, and I was just thinking, what if he goes like Pittsburgh or Cincinnati or something like that? And it's just be like, okay, so you're gonna go to this team and lose for the next 5 years
because they're not gonna. You're gonna be like the only guy there. There's gonna be all cost controlled, pre-arbitration year players surrounding you.
Right.
And Francisco Liriano will come back on a minor league deal.
Liriano. Yeah, and what's his name with the bow?
Oh yeah. I can't remember his name.
The Cubs had him for a little bit. Fernando Rodney.
Fernando Rodney, right. I think Albert Pujols did that back to him. When he was with the Angels, he did the little bow and arrow thing back at him one time. I guess he popped one on him.
What did he do? Hit a home run on him and then do it on his way around the bases?
I don't know if he did it on the bases or after he got back in, or maybe it was a double and he did it while he was standing on second base. But I know he did it back to him at one point.
Yeah. So kind of back to the Cubs' needs. So so they're going to need to replace Jake Arrieta because right now you're looking at Kyle Hendricks, John Lester, and Jose Quintana as your pitcher. I think the Cubs make their fifth pitcher Mike Montgomery next year. I think they convert him to a starting pitcher because that's what he was before they got him from Seattle and made him the loogie. So I think they go out and I think they get one really good arm to kind of nail down that starting rotation. Then I think their second need after that is a closer. They need to get – Wade Davis isn't going to re-sign. I don't think he's going to re-sign with the Cubs, even though he had a fantastic year last year. And then after that, I think they need to trade away a couple of the guys that play the outfield, and I would love to see them go after somebody and trade for somebody like Christian Yelich. I think that gets them the leadoff guy that they need, somebody with speed that can steal bases, and somebody who's got some pop in the bat. I think he plays left field. And my long-term thought on that is you trade for him. He's under control for a few years. You still have enough on the books to –
Sorry, did you say Ozuna or Yelich?
Yelich. Because Yelich was on the trading block this last July.
I think if you was what I picked up on today. Didn't read it. I only read the headline. Is that it's clear the Marlins – plan on moving Mike Stanton this winter.
Yes,
that's like their number one priority. And it sounds like they want to keep the younger cost control guys. I'm betting that I would guess that they'll be in Marlins uniforms on opening day. I think it's going to take a lot more to get them.
I think that's possible, but I think if the Cubs dangle somebody like Ian Happ and Kyle Schwarber out there, where you get two cost control guy. I think so. I think that's what it would take to get Yelich, because you're taking two cost control guys for one cost control guy, and then you've got a pretty good ceiling there for Schwarber. I mean, I still think he's going to be a great baseball player. Yeah, his fielding.
I think he would have more value. The Cubs get more back from him, dealing him to the AL. I would have to think.
AL, yeah, and I think you're right. So maybe they dangle him to Boston for somebody like Benintendi. I mean,
I think for an AL team it would be more enticing because it's what position are you going to trade for? If you're a National League team, what are you going to trade him to do? Right? I mean, what is he going to do for you when you get him? Is he going to be a left fielder? Is he going to be first base? Is he going to catch again?
I don't think he's going to catch again. I think that knee injury that he had wouldn't allow him to be that everyday catcher. I don't know that for a fact. I don't, no inside source here or somebody that I talked to.
Yeah, we don't do sources.
Yeah, no sources.
Nope.
So I think he's a left fielder. I think he's a DH. So
yeah, I think
maybe some first base, but he's gonna have to learn. So
right. Well, I would just think that you get more out of him perhaps to the American League. So I think that's where most people see him working out best long term. The thing is like the if you're a Cub fan, the bummer there is that his value down. I mean, of course it's down. How much has he compromised his perception on his potential because of the performance this year? And you probably is he going to be allowed time to reestablish himself in order to
Possibly. I think if he doesn't get dealt this offseason, I think that's what the Cubs do is they try to reestablish his value. And you almost got to look at it like this last season was his first full season as a major league ball player. I mean, right? You take out. I mean, he didn't play all of 2016 until the World Series.
Yeah.
So
and he only played the back half of the year in 2015, right?
Right. He played like the last 20 games or something like that.
So was he September call-up then in 2015?
He came up in August. So
okay.
They called him up in August. I think somebody got hurt in 2015. They brought him up. I remember they brought him up in Cleveland. Against Cleveland, he had his first games as a DH. He tore it up. Then they kind of brought him along, and he kept doing it in Cincinnati, and then he stuck with the team all the way through the 2015 playoffs, and that's kind of when the legend of Kyle Schwarber started during that 2015 playoff run, and then he gets hurt in the second game of the year in 2016, and then comes back during the playoffs, and your legend starts again. So it was disappointing to see the way that he performed this last year. As a hitter, I felt like he became a better fielder, but I think he'll hit his second half of the season after he had that stint down in the minors was better. I know the numbers for the year don't show it, but his second half numbers showed that he really improved. I mean, he still hit 28 homers.
He still had a lot of a good amount of home runs. He did.
Yeah. So, yeah. So I mean, you're probably right. His value is there to an AL team, but maybe those teams are going to need another year to evaluate what his stock actually is.
Yeah. So it makes looking at going into 2018. There's in no way can I even begin to think where the Cardinals are going to end up, in the division by the time we're talking, 11, 10 months from now. So much depends. I mean, this has been a season where the offseason has been the most important for them than it ever has in my recent memory. What they do this winter is going to have the biggest impact that any winter has had for them in a very long time. So much hangs on that. If we're running out a very similar team with a few tweaks, you're going to see you're going to see another third, fourth place team. That's what they're going to end up being if they don't do the right thing.
Right. If they don't make the right moves, but even with only a couple of tweaks, even if they don't make the big move, I still think that the NL Central is bunched up between the Brewers, the Cubs, and the Cardinals. I think for the next few years, it's gonna be like that unless one of these teams does make a couple of big moves and really fortifies the lineup. I still think it's going to be kind of bunched up.
I disagree a little bit because I think that I still see a gap, and I know the Cubs underperformed this year, and they allowed the Cardinals and Brewers to hang around a lot longer than what I thought they would. I thought by the time we got in August, it was going to be, all right, you're
another 15-game lead or something like
yeah,
that.
I really thought it was going to end up that way. The Cardinals got within, they tied them after the All-Star game Wednesday. I mean, it was real brief.
Yeah.
Right? It might have lasted a day, but
I
the
think
fact
there
that
was
they're
a
even
couple
tied
of
with them at one
days
point
where
just
they
blew
were
my mind.
leading by a game or two, I thought.
Maybe you're right. It's so hard for me to imagine that they would ever be up.
Where the Cardinals were on like an 8-game winning streak and the Cubs were on like an 8-game losing streak.
Yeah, you might be right, but still, I think it just still blew my mind. Just if you had watched that team closely from day one up until that point, you're like, I can't imagine how this team is even within that kind of distance of Chicago, because it's just the way Chicago played the year before. So I still see a big gap between the two. I think the Cardinals have so much work to do to even get close to where the Cubs are. And I think the Cubs will end up. They'll probably play better next year.
I hope so. I mean, you saw some down years, and I can't even say sophomore slumps for these guys because it was their third year between Bryant and Russell and Javi and all these guys. But I don't know if it was the World Series hangover. Just that, the way that they had been playing ball. I think I read a statistics where it said from the second half of 2015 all the way through the end of the World Series of 2016, the Cubs winning percentage was like 712. Something ridiculous like that. Kind of like what the Dodgers were playing most of this year, where it was, they were winning 70% of their games.
How many did the Cubs win in 15? What is it, like 97 games, 98 games? Something like
97. They tied the Pirates, and then they had that play-in playing game for the wild card.
Well, so
because that was the year that the Cardinals won 100 games.
I think it was just 100, right? And they decided they decided to go ahead, and it was okay to lose their last 6 games. But I think the Pirates finished with 98 wins, if I'm not mistaken, and then those two were in the wild card playoff game anyway.
Maybe that's what it was. Yeah.
But
98, 97.
God, look at that Central how it was that year, and you got 198 and a 97 win team. Yeah.
And I mean, well, that year they really beat on the Reds, the Reds in Milwaukee.
Yes,
because they were terrible in 2015.
They were punching bags, and they had. I don't know. I really haven't checked in on Cincinnati or read what the experts are saying. Here's where they're at in their rebuild. Here's where they're at in their process. I really don't know, but I don't know if they'll find themselves in the race a little bit longer next year, or what's going to happen. It's a tough team to talk about.
A little bit. I would think you would know a little bit more about the Reds, since that's your local team.
You had to bring that up. There is a gaping hole in the schedule where I can't. I can listen radio only because I cannot get. I'm in Cincinnati's market in Chicago. If you didn't know that. For anybody who's listening or watching this, you've heard me say it 1,600 times now that, yes, I'm in Cincinnati's market, being in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Cincinnati, Baltimore, and Atlanta.
Right. So I can't watch. 6 games are blacked out against the Nationals. I don't get their.
Oh, yeah.
Being a cable cutter, I can't get their games. If they ever play interleague against Baltimore, which is rare, but I wouldn't get those either. Atlanta, at least I have the Atlanta Fox Sports South, so that's that's covered. But yeah, 19 games against the Reds. Nope, not unless it's on ESPN or MLB Network. That's
you gotta get it.
And something it always happens on that bad night where you just want to come. I just want to sit in my living room, crack open a beer, watch a ball game, and it's blacked out. You're like, yeah, fun. Fun is what I was going to say.
So what do you use to stream your MLB?
I just use MLB TV on Apple TV.
Okay. Do you have a Fire Stick at all?
I have a Fire TV.
We'll have an offline conversation then.
Cool.
I got something for you.
You got a formula for me. All right, you got a fix.
I do.
Right.
I got a fix for you.
Awesome. All right. Hey, man, do you know the routine? because I'm not waiting on these guys.
Are we talking about? Oh, are you talking about the follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and SoundCloud?
That's it.
Give us the likes.
Give us the reviews.
Twitter.
We got a couple new ones that
give us
up.
the reviews.
I want reviews on iTunes. That's one of the easier ones to leave a review on. Leave us a review on iTunes. It gets us up in the search. It raises our it improves our searchability. Let's just say that. But ratings, reviews, those things are great. We really appreciate it. And you can actually give us a rating on YouTube now, right? Elliott, can you rate on YouTube?
Yeah.
Okay. And
then also go to teamofrivalspodcast.com and see the nice work that Ron and Pete have done on the new website.
Website's pretty slick. And we got a little call out to Elliott there since he's filling in. He's on there too. Yes. So those of you that are picking up just the audio portion of this, we do have a YouTube channel. We'll try to do as many of these as possible. We'll try to do them live. It's a fun thing to do but I didn't document what I did tonight. So I don't know if I can repeat next week. Speaking of repeat, Pete will be back next week sitting in the co-pilot chair. But if you're listening to the audio portion of this, we do have a YouTube channel, so you can check it out. Like us on there, subscribe too. Those things are great. And well, Elliott, thank you so much, man, for filling in tonight. I like
problem.
To keep these shows consistent, and we'll look forward to having.
Got to hit every Thursday.
Smith corks one into right down the line. It may go. Go crazy, folks. Go crazy. There's a drive. Way back. It might be. It could be.
Playing a high drive into left. Back towards the Craig. He's at the track. He has it. And the Cardinals are World Champion for 2011.
A little bouncer slowly toward Bryant. He will glove it, go to Rizzo. It's in time, and the Chicago Cubs win the World Series.
This is the Team of Rivals podcast. No insiders, no anonymous sources, just passionate analysis from the bleacher seats. Here are your hosts, Ron Nuttall and Peter Geddes.
All right, everyone, welcome back to the show. Quite an accomplishment tonight on many, many levels. I'm celebrating me tonight, and this could be one of the best shows ever because I figured out how to use a bunch of electronics, social media, video, sound. I've done it all tonight, but I'm not alone.
You're on fire.
I'm on fire. This is gonna be the best hour over the whole last year that we've done on this show, because I feel that confident now that I was able to tweet one. And what else did I do, Elliott? Help me.
Smith corks one into right down the line. It may go. Go crazy, folks. Go crazy. There's a drive. Way back. It might be. It could be.
Playing a high drive into left. Back towards the Craig. He's at the track. He has it. And the Cardinals are World Champion for 2011.
A little bouncer slowly toward Bryant. He will glove it, go to Rizzo. It's in time, and the Chicago Cubs win the World Series.
Smith corks one into right down the line. It may go. Go crazy, folks. Go crazy. There's a drive. Way back. It might be. It could be.
Playing a high drive into left. Back towards the Craig. He's at the track. He has it. And the Cardinals are World Champion for 2011.
A A little bouncer slowly toward Bryant. He will glove it, throw to Rizzo. It's in time, and the Chicago Cubs win the World Series.
This is the Team of Rivals podcast. No insiders, no anonymous sources, just passionate analysis from the bleacher seats. Here are your hosts, Ron Nuttall and Peter Geddes.
All right, everyone, welcome back to the show. Quite an accomplishment tonight on many, many levels. I'm celebrating me tonight, and this could be one of the best shows ever because I figured out how to use a bunch of electronics, social media, video.